Let's grade the New Orleans Saints draft. So let's talk about grading drafts, right? So I don't want to grade just individual players. So we're not going to go through and just say, all right, this individual player for the Saints, what's his grade? What's his grade? What's his grade? I grade it by, did the team address what they needed to? Did they get the positional needs, impact, did they fill roster spots? Is the roster better for the next season? Is the roster better the day after the draft than it was the day before the draft, right? Like if the Cincinnati Bengals would have drafted Caleb Williams, I wouldn't give them an A. But I do give Chicago Bears an A for drafting Caleb Williams, if that makes sense. So this video from CBS Sports is the entire NFC South. They're grading all of their drafts. I'm just going to grade the Saints. So we're just going to talk about the Saints. We're not going to talk about the Falcons or the Panthers or the Bucks. For what it's worth, I thought the Falcons draft was absolutely horrible, but we're going to stick with the Saints today. So in this video, we shall grade the New Orleans Saints draft.
The Saints are up next, and I know you had Spencer Rattler ranked higher than others did. That is his eventual landing place after the longest quarterback drought from pick 12 to pick Rattler that we'd seen in the common draft era. I know there was other things done before this for those Saints. What do you make of both the Rattler decision, how he situates there, his opportunity, and their draft as a whole?
All right, so we have a video on Rattler. If you want to see my thoughts on the specific thoughts and reactions to Spencer Rattler getting drafted by the Saints, check that out. But overall, I think the Saints have an A to an A plus draft. I'll say A. The only thing keeping me from an A plus is that I like the Rattler pick, but we won't see the fruits of that labor until 2026, somewhere in there. So the first two picks, A plus, A plus. Taliese Fuaga, we have a video on him as well. And then Kool-Aid McKinstry. I mean, you're talking about two players who they will be immediate starters. They will be impactful immediately. They will allow that we are better because they are on the roster. I saw somewhere where Kool-Aid was like the sixth player on the board to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Like he is a highly touted player in the secondary. He might be the number one guy. He might be the number one secondary player on the odds board to win Defensive Player of the Year. So those two picks right there, A plus, no doubt about it. Rattler, I love the pick, but as far as like impact and what it means to us now, not much. Past that, I didn't love Ford, the linebacker out of Texas. We took him way too early. We took him 2 rounds too early. Dennis Allen came in and said he's going to compete for a job on special teams and then potentially could play linebacker at some point. Dennis, brother, that's not what a 5th round pick is for. That's what 7th round picks and undrafted free agents are for. So that was a huge reach there. I thought the rest was okay. The wide receiver out of Pittsburgh, a bit of a developmental wide receiver. He's kind of raw. I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea that I feel like when we took our first 3 picks, I feel like once we went Fuaga, Kool-Aid, and Rattler, then we kind of fell back into that, okay, let's take some developmental players. Let's take some players who, with the right tweaking, we might be able to find a diamond in the rough. We've done that in the past to no success. I didn't want to see us do that. I wanted to see us stick with this guy can play, this guy can be an immediate impact. I don't know if we necessarily got that with the wide receiver from Pittsburgh and Ford from Texas. The wide receiver from Pittsburgh, what's his name? It's escaping me right now. Bud, is that it? Bud Means, is that his name? I hope that's right. But it's escaping me right now. But overall, given the fact that we had no picks in the 3rd and 4th round, I think we did really well.
First off, I'll give the Saints an A for what they did throughout the draft here, not just because of the Spencer Rattler pick, Rick. And if pick 199 is known as the Tom Brady pick, Rick, I'm going to plant my flag. Going forward, round 5.
Okay, I was right. Bud Means. Yeah, so Bud Means is the... Okay, I was right on all of them. I'm on a different level. So Bud Means is the wide receiver from Pittsburgh. Ford is the linebacker from Texas. Boyd is the defensive lineman from Northern Iowa. So I've heard a lot of good things about Boyd. When I saw the pick, I was like, man, you got to be kidding me. This is more of the same thing. Like, we're trying to find just random players, Northern Iowa trying to get cute, and then those players never develop. But I actually heard that Boyd, a lot of people were really impressed with that pick. So I will err to them because I didn't watch a ton of Northern Iowa last year, but a lot of people are saying that was a great pick right there. So Ford is, if I looked at these picks right here, I'd probably go A plus Fuaga, A plus McKinstry, A Rattler, C Means, F Ford, and then I'd say C+ to a B- for Boyd.
Pick 15 will be known as Rattlerville. So just keep that in mind as we go through this.
Let me write that down.
Yeah, write that down.
Rattlerville.
So look.
Get the anti-venom.
Yeah, I love it. Taliese Fuaga. We've talked forever that they need offensive line help. Olafashanu was gone. Mickey Loomis didn't have to trade up, so he's going to.
And then, for Azirum, the Kentucky lineman, I have no idea.
Going to be potentially a day one starter, have an opportunity to at least compete.
Eastern Kentucky. So, again, you start seeing this stuff where it's like Christian Boyd, Northern Iowa, Eastern Kentucky. You start to get in that world where the Saints are doing the same old, where they're looking for those diamonds in the rough. And that's okay if you hit them. But we talked about how important it was this year for the Saints to hit these picks, to get players who are going to be impactful. We cannot have, for example, we can't have Bub Means, Jalen Ford, Christian Boyd, and Josiah Azirum. We can't have them do nothing. We can't have these have 4 wasted picks. We need them to play. We need them to be impactful for the franchise. They don't need to be all pros, but they need to play. All right, just like we talked about, you can find those kind of players late in the draft. You can find the Puka Nakuas and the Isaiah Pacheco's and the Kyron Williams. You can find guys like that late and even undrafted. So the first 3 picks were fantastic. After that, and then Rattler, if you say Rattler will play in 2 years, okay, cool. But if Bub Means, Jalen Ford, Christian Boyd, and Josiah Azirum do not play, they don't play much at all, then you're looking at 4 out of our 6 picks could not play at all, and we want to get away from that. So I like how the draft set up. I like how it's sitting here. I need to see a lot out of Bub Means. If Bub Means can be A.T. Perry, if he can do what A.T. Perry did last year, this upcoming year, because obviously he's going to try and fill that physical role that Michael Thomas had. So if Bub Means can do that, okay. But from all I'm hearing, he's a very raw wide receiver. He's an athlete, but route running, things like that. I think he ran pretty well at the combine. I think that's what shot him up draft boards. I think his 40 time was good, which helps people kind of say, okay, maybe he can separate, maybe he can get away from the defenders, but we'll have to see it.
Kool-Aid McKinstry, first-round talent, and then Spencer Rattler. I had him as a third-round pick. I think he was 85th or so on my board.
Yeah, I think Rattler. Good point there. Kool-Aid. A lot of people were saying he was a lot of people would not have batted an eye if he would have been a top 20 pick. They would not have second guessed it if he was the first defensive back off the board and if he would have went, 25. So the fact that we could get him at 41, something we need. All of a sudden now our secondary is looking pretty sweet, right? So all of a sudden you go Marshawn Lattimore, Alontae Taylor, Paulson, Debo, Kool-Aid McKinstry. That's strong. That's real strong. And Rattler, a lot of people again thought he would be a third rounder, right? 3rd round pick. He doesn't get. He's the first quarterback chosen after Bo Nix. So yeah, it looks like Spencer Rattler is a 5th round quarterback. But you could also say he was the 5th quarterback taken, right? It goes. No, that's not right. It goes. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix. He was the 7th. So 6 go. And then he's the 7th quarterback taken. So 6 go in the top 12, and then you get Rattler. Is Rattler that much worse than Bo Nix? Is Rattler... honestly, I might rather have Rattler than Bo Nix. TBH. If you told me I could have Bo Nix in the top 15 or Spencer Rattler in the top 150, I'm taking Spencer Rattler all day, every day. So if he plays, obviously this becomes just an unbelievable draft. If he is as good as I think he could be, if he does sit and learn behind Derek Carr and he develops and all that, I think the Saints. I think Rattler could be where we turn around and in 5-6 years we're like, how in the hell did this guy slip to the 5th round?
He falls to 150. And then a guy that we've talked a lot about, Rick, Bub Means, straight line speed, big target, maybe a little Marcus Colston in this game. I don't know what the future may be in terms of where they want to line him up. And one last name I'll mention, Shrine.
Honestly, I don't know why most businesses only hire full-time and only hire local. Fiverr. It's a marketplace that has the world's best freelancers all in one place. It's as simple
Bowl participant Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa did not get a combine invite. I think this is a steal here at the bottom of the draft.
Yeah, no, I loved him when I watched this tape because he's a big physical nose tackle that does have some pass rush ability. But I was
Yeah, like I said, a lot of people, from what I'm hearing, have really like the Christian Boyd pick. I obviously don't have a lot of tape on this cat, but it sounds like he's a good pick. The Bub Means thing, like they mentioned, is straight line speed. Very different than Marcus Colston. Marcus Colston was more of a tight end kind of, big physical wide receiver. But sounds like Means might be, he's fast. I think we can say that. What he'll be doing, question mark. Because with Clint Kubiak and with Kyle Shanahan and the Shanahan offense, you can move people around. So maybe he's one of those guys where like, well, physically we can find mismatches for him. He's fast enough to play receiver, but he's also big enough to kind of get on the inside. So I would assume Kubiak had a lot of input in the style of the player that they drafted. So where I'm thinking of Bub Means, how I'm thinking of him as a wide receiver might not be how he actually plays on the field. So I'm going to err to Kubiak there, but I need to see him be impactful this year. If he plays this year and he plays well this year, okay, cool, all good. I'll bump that C- or whatever I gave him up to a B. No problem, no problem at all. I want to see the players play. That's it. We talked about it all draft prep. We need to draft players who can play. We don't need to draft players who can play on the practice team. We don't need to draft players who are only going to play on special teams. We don't need to do that. We're too salary restricted. We're too shallow roster wise. This is the time to replenish. All right. So we replenished, right? We replenished with Fuaga. We replenished with Kool-Aid. We pseudo replenished with Spencer. Now you start getting into those question marks where what are we going to get from the Bub Means? What are we going to get from Christian Boyd? What are we going to get from Ford? What are we going to get from these players, right?
surprised he didn't go to the combine because of what you've seen at the East-West Shrine game. And it was also in the Hula Bowl.
Okay.
And I watched some of the Hula Bowl tape there, and he was dominant there. So this is a small school kid, and one of those stories, I bet, that, hey, I wasn't good enough to get invited to the combine, but I'm going to make a pretty good career in the NFL.
Yeah, if you can find that value in this draft, you end up looking like a genius. Tampa Bay, that...
Yeah, so if you look, let's pull up the whole board again, right? So I would say, and grading draft picks is always hard because you never want to come out and say, oh, this guy's a bust. This guy, or simultaneously, you don't want to come out and say, this guy's an all-pro, this guy's a Hall of Famer, right? So I think we did what we had to do. I think we had a mission, we had a goal, and I think Mickey put together a pretty good draft. I think Mickey put together one of those solid drafts. And I'll tell you the pick that really seals it for me is the Kool-Aid McKinstry pick. Like being able to get him, being able to go get a guy who, you know, it would have been really easy there to just reach on a defensive end. Really easy to get another offensive lineman. But to say, you know what? Not only are we going to take this guy, but we're going to trade up and make sure we get him. We like him that much. And I've heard, I think it was Nick Saban on the broadcast said pound for pound, he might be the best player in this draft. So you get a guy who super high ceiling. I mean, obviously the ceiling is a legit lockdown number one corner. That's a ceiling. Floor, his floor is probably an Alontae Taylor. His floor is probably just a solid secondary player. So I love it. I mean, that is the pick right there where you could argue we had, you know, you come out with a first round pick, a second round pick, and then a bunch of picks in the fifth round and the seventh round, and you come out with your top two players or potentially 2 first round grades. That's what you got to do. That's how you extract value out of the board. That's how you sit back, watch the board. I mean, how many people leading up to this said, at 45 you got to take Malachi Corley, right? I heard that all. We have a video talking about that. I heard that all offseason was at the second pick, take Malachi Corley, and then you look at Malachi Corley and he goes 65. It would have been so easy for the Saints to sit back at 45 and say, you know what? We had Corley circled. We've heard people talking about Corley. We've seen mocks. You know, mocks have sent Corley to us at 45. Let's take him right here. And then what? Then all of a sudden you're looking at the same old draft from the Saints, where you get a Western Kentucky wide receiver, a Northern Iowa defensive lineman, and an Eastern Kentucky offensive lineman. Right? Then you're sitting there looking at that like, man, what the hell is this? Like, we're just this is not it. So that's a good example right there of them thinking creatively, reading the board, seeing valuable players fall, and going up and getting them. The defensive backs falling was great for the Saints. So I love it. I think it was a really good draft. I'm very happy with what Loomis did. Now, obviously, all these could not work out. It happens, right? These could all be busts. And it is what it is. We could not get any value at all from this. But that's not how you grade drafts. You got to look at it and say, did we accomplish what we set out to accomplish? I think the Saints did. I think the Saints set out to get their offensive line figured out. Boom. They get an immediate day one starter in Taliese Fuaga. Not a developmental player, not a Trevor Penning type player, a plug in and play right tackle. Plug him in a right tackle. I'll see you in 10 years. Then they said, you know what? Let's get another starter. Boom. Kool-Aid McKinstry. Shore up the defense. Shore up the secondary. Day one will be a day one starter. And then, like I said, we got a little cute with the Bub Means and Jalen Ford and Christian Boyd, Josiah Ziram. But you get one of those guys to play, mission accomplished. So I'm very happy with this. I feel great as a Saints fan. I think Saints fans should look around and say, damn, this is a hell of a draft. This is a hell of a draft. Sets us up for the now. Sets us up potentially for the future. Gets the roster a little deeper. Brings some talent into positions we needed talent in. Gets exciting. Gets kind of sexy with the Rattler pick where, okay, all of a sudden now we're not in limbo. We're not in the land of irrelevancy. We're not in that world where it's like, man, we have Andy Dalton and Ian Book and Trevor Siemian and who the hell is playing quarterback? What are we doing here? Now we have a nice, easy, simple, linear bridge. Like, it's very obvious what we're going to do. We're going to have Derek Carr. He's going to play for the next couple of years. When he is ready to move on, or when we're ready to move on from him, we're going to turn over to Spencer Rattler. That's it. It's that simple. And it feels good. It feels real good to sit back and say, man, we have kind of a plan here. Right now, we have a plan for the next three-ish years. We have a pretty easy, obvious plan. Fantastic. Clint Kubiak comes in. He's going to teach the offense. Spencer Rattler is going to have a chance to learn at the exact same pace of everybody else. He's going to be able to learn right there with Derek Carr at the same starting point. Unbelievable. I mean, what a fantastic opportunity for the Saints right now. It feels great to be a Saints fan right now. It feels great to be a Saints fan. Does that mean we're going to win the Super Bowl next year? No. Does that mean we're going to win 10 games? No. But this is what you want your team to do. You want your team to have a plan. You want your team to have a goal. You want your team to have an identity, right? And we do that. We have that. Will it work? You don't know if any of these players will work. You don't know if any pick will work. That's not how the NFL works. But you do want to have something behind why you're picking. And I think we did that. Mickey Loomis, should feel good about himself. I feel good about it. I love where the team is headed. I love the plan. And I'm glad we don't have to talk about mock drafts anymore. I'm glad we don't have to talk about the 19th mock draft and my God, what about this trade? What about this player? And man, it was getting tough. I'm sure y'all were tired of watching it too. So we're done with draft talk. We'll obviously talk more about the actual players we have. And now we're moving forward, right? So it's April 28th when I'm recording this. We are a few months out. We're a few months out from seeing how this roster looks. And I'm sure now we'll hear much more about training camps and OTAs and what these players look like and interviews with them. And we'll hear more from Clint Kubiak and we'll hear more from Dennis Allen. And the offseason, we're here now. Now the draft's over. Okay, we know what the roster looks like. We know what we are working with and what we're heading to the next season with. So, this is it now. I'm excited. I'm fired up. I hope y'all are fired up too. Ladies and gentlemen, give me in the comments below, what would your grade be for the draft? I haven't been on the Saints subreddit for my own mental sanity, but I haven't seen one way or the other if people are generally happy about this draft or generally mad. I don't think there's any way you could come out of this and be unhappy with the draft. All the respected people I talk to on a daily basis, whether it's gambling groups or just analysts, they've all said A draft. I've not heard a single person who knows ball say that this was a weak draft or a D or an F or anything like that. So I'd be kind of shocked if any fans were upset about any of these picks. So yeah, I love it. So get down in the comments below. Let me know where you land on this. I'll be down there replying. Ton of engagement on the channel recently. whether it was the stream, whether it's been the videos, whatever. So thank you very much for all of that. I really do appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you in the next video.